Actually, Emily, I know you had some great points on subject line. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, subject line, honestly, you want to keep it to 2 to 3 words. That's how you're going to get the highest open rate. I know it's super tempting to start writing your novel, but keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it snappy, and make it so people want to open it. Don't use the word free. Don't use some of those words that get caught in spam. And yeah, be snappy with it.
So you want to be snappy, but when it comes to it, like, is there any things I should add? Like, I know people add emojis, they like to bold their subject lines. Do you think that comes across too spammy or?
Kind of depends on your business and who you're selling into, but usually you just want to use plain text.
Okay, all right, cool. Now, do you think that it's good to keep things that are like hooks? Like, hey, here's what you're missing, or hey, your name. I used to use that all the time, and it got a surprisingly a lot of open rates. What do you think is a really good subject headline people should use?
Ooh, that's a good question. Sometimes I start with a simple question with a question mark, like a 3-word question. Have you seen? Have you heard? But it depends again on so many factors. What were some of your favorites? Do you have any off the top of your mind?
Yes, mine was, hey, your name. Like if I just put the name of the person or I just put your name, it's funny. And it got a lot of open rates. I don't know why, but it worked. So I just kept using it. But there's one thing I noticed. At some point, a subject line just becomes exhausted. It's like you use it so many times. How do you know when it's time to move on?
You'll see that in your data, in your open rates. You're going to see the decline. I love that. Somebody put, can we help in the chat?
Ooh, I like that. Guys, let me know your best subject lines. Just throw them in the chat. I want to see some of these. Can we help is a really good one. I like that a lot. Now, I know, Kolby, you mentioned about being very concise and to the point. Can you give me a little bit more details on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it sort of follows the trend of the subject, right? And I think Emily will get into this a little bit from like a marketer's perspective. But one of the things that I try and coach with my team and others that I mentor is to kind of put yourself in the shoes of the person who's receiving the message in the first place. And I know as an SDR, this might be your first role as an SDR. So that can be really tough. Like, what does an enterprise sales leader care about? Well, for most people, what they care about is time. So if I can make it really quick, really simple, right? Here's what I want to talk to you about, why I want to talk about it, and what's in it for you. We can get that message across really quickly. And ideally, I can read it on my phone. That's gold.
I like that. I like that. Now, when you say you want to make sure that they can read it on the phone, how do I know? Because most emails are made on desktop, right? How can I ensure it can be read on mobile?
Yeah, good question. One, the simplest, send it to yourself, and then pull it up in your Gmail or your Outreach or whatever you have on your phone. A lot of systems, I can't speak too well about Outreach and SalesLoft, but like ZoomInfo Engage, our sales automation platform, allows you to preview the message on different screens. So we can preview it on a tablet, on a phone, on an email, so you can actually kind of see what your message looks like. But if you gotta like pull up your phone, if you have to scroll to see your message is too long. Like that's, and Emily, you're shaking your head yes, so I'll let you come in on this because this is really more your role. But like that's the challenge. And I'm getting some audio cutting out. Are you guys hearing that too?
Yeah, we're hearing a little bit of
Emily, you vamp for a minute and I'm gonna mess with my audio.
Yeah, let's jump right to length for a little bit. So in your cold outreach, your emails typically fall between 100 and 150 words, but studies show that if you drop that down to somewhere between 25 and 50 words, I know, super short, super concise, your open rates can go up to like 60%.
Wow. That's a
go up to 60%, not to 60%.
And what is it that makes people say this person doesn't even know who they're talking to? I don't even want to reply, don't want to see it. Now, I know there should be a sense of personalization here, and also you want to keep it simple. Emily, I know you had a great point on this. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, honestly, it's all about driving curiosity. And the way to keep it simple is just how do I get them to read the next line? So, your subject line, you want them to start reading your email. Your first line, you want them to read the second line, and so on until it gets to the CTA and you want them to probably have a conversation. And that's
Mm.
where Kolby comes in.
I like it. And then Kolby, you mentioned personalization being very important, but you got to go about it correctly. What did you mean by that?
Definitely. So there's always like there's a bit of a double-edged sword, I think, with personalization. You know, especially like let's just focus on the SDR, BDR type relationship where it's just pure cold outreach. You're trying to generate a meeting. Ultimately, it is a numbers game. When we have open rates of, let's say they're amazing and it's only 30%.
Mhm.
That's an amazing open rate, believe it or not. So you got to send 100 emails to get 30 opens. You get maybe 5 to 10% of that as a click through. And maybe of that, it's 3% as a response. Now you got to do that like 1,000 times. So yes, we need to personalize it to make sure that we're sending the right message and we're getting that attention, but it's unrealistic to send one email that takes 20 minutes worth of research. Like that just doesn't scale. And I see a lot of SDRs get stuck doing that. So I like to do this sort of Mad Lib of like, here's why I'm talking to you. This is why or how we're going to solve this problem. And your call to action. So your personalization, and like this goes for anything, but ZoomInfo, we can tell you their phone number, their email, their job title, their management structure, where they fit in the organization, and then everything else that you need to know about the company. So you already know that this company is most likely the right fit. You know that this person is in your ideal customer profile, person who buys, uses, is affected by your solution.
Mhm.
So just explain that to them. Hey, based on some research, it looks like you're responsible for this. People who are responsible for this care about this. And here's what I want from you. And don't ask for 15 minutes. I get asked for 15 minutes all the time. Like I don't have 15 minutes. I want a specific ask. What's in it for me? And that's your personalization. But then if you kind of Mad Lib that out, you can then go in using like an outreach or a sales loft or an engage and plug in those variables. If you've got the data pulled into CRM, you can put those variables in. So you've got like industry as a variable, job titles a variable, job functions a variable. And then it's a quick little bit of personalization, but it's enough to make it not feel quite so can spammy. And you can play the numbers game and you can play the personalization game. There is absolutely a place in the world for that perfect email. Like if you're trying to reach out to a CEO of a significant organization, you've done your homework, this is absolutely the right guy, sure, do a couple of those a day. But that can't be your whole day, or you will never book enough meetings.
I take that. Now, we mentioned, let me go ahead and share my screen here because this brings us in perfectly into our next point. We want to know, how do you now close this all off, right? We got the personalization, we're engaging in good conversation. How do we now go for that meeting? Now, Kolby, you had a really great point. You want to let them know what's in it for them. Could you speak more about that?
Yeah, definitely. So this kind of goes back to, I've been like skimming the chat a little bit. I've seen a lot of you guys say, I've got a 90% open rate, but they're not replying. So like, first of all, if you have a 90% open rate, like well done. That's the hard part. Second of all, if they're not replying, then they don't care what you're talking to them about. So people don't open emails and not read them. unless they're going through and like hitting select all and opening. If they're hitting select all, they're just going to delete them or archive them. That's not going to trigger that open response. So that means you've got a really good subject line. You've got someone who's like engaging with your brand. Maybe they already recognize the brand. Maybe marketing's already done some work for you, but your call to action is bad, for the lack of a better term, right? There's no reason for them to respond. That could be a number of things. It could be they don't understand what's in it for them. So they're like, cool message, bro. Don't really get why you're reaching out to me. So I'm just going to ignore you. You've given them too much. So there's no curiosity. They don't need to do anything. They're just going to go right to their website and do the research there or something else. So it depends a lot on the what's in it for them will depend on what action or objective or outcome you're trying to drive. If it's marketing trying to drive that outreach, most of the time marketing's not there trying to drive a specific, hey, book a meeting with me. Here's my calendar link. They're trying to provide air cover for us sales monkeys to like go around and actually get in there and make it happen. So when the first time they reach out to them, or the first time you reach out to the prospect, it's not the first time I've heard about your brand. So the what's in it for them is ultimately your solution. You know, what is success look like in your solution? What is the value you drive? And from an SDR's perspective, you know, any salesperson, and I'm talking like quota carrying rep, should be able to understand in your target personas, what's the value? Why are you solving? What's the problem you're solving? What's the pain? What's the value of that pain? From an SDR perspective, I think sales leadership does a poor job of articulating that to an SDR. We essentially say, hey, go sell and send this message to VPs of sales. And this is generally what we do. You guys get like 40 seconds of boot camp, and then we give you an email automation campaign. Like, good luck. So if you can't answer the question, what's in it for the person I'm trying to reach out to, ask your team, ask your manager, ask your paired AE so that you can understand that. And marketing can help you do that because they've already done the research. Marketing probably knows more about your ideal customer profile than you do. And if you meet with that person and they say something completely opposite of what you've been doing, there's a big problem there, right? That's a marketing and sales misalignment. That's a whole nother webinar I'm sure we'll get to. But like the what's in it for them, like that is the secret sauce. That's the reason why your response rates are poor. If they are, there's no call to action and there's no reason for me to engage with